And this was something which the US always officially denied. So the official stand was, we in no way want to get into Vietnam, we don't want to interfere into their affairs, it's a completely independent country. However, currently ruled by France, and we have absolutely no position in it. And that is where the US obviously was playing a dual role. Now when these documents were available, simply because of the access that Ellsberg had, he was completely shocked. He did not know what to do. Obviously, a lot of other people also had access to these documents, and which is where initially I said that most of us want to go via the routine kind of path. Right? Most of us want to have a secure job, we want to be well-doing in our respective careers, we want to earn good money, we want stability. Ellsberg was different. Ellsberg said this particular information is not only harmful, but this must be published, because this is something which is impacting the entire world. This is not something which should be kept confidential. And this is when he decided to do something about it. Now, this was obviously the era of the 1960s, in which time there were the Xerox machine or the photocopier machine itself was new. So, to copy a document, we are not even talking about computers, internets, mobiles, fax, right? All those devices did not exist, or when I say did not exist in the current form, and which is why all the information was actually kept in the stacked papers. So physical files were kept, considering the secrecy and so on, and then tags were put saying it's a highly confidential information. Now when Ellsberg got access to this information, he started photocopying one paper after the other. These files were huge files which were stored in extremely confidential stores that the RAND Corporation had, which Pentagon owned. And it was very difficult, first of all, to get access to these files, and secondly, to copy them. But Ellsberg painstakingly started doing this. Now the trouble was, if he, let's say, copied a particular piece of paper, that paper would have a line called as confidential running across. Right? I'm sure all of us have seen such papers. Or maybe there were tags at the top or the bottom saying it is classified. Now how do you hide this? Because you could not obviously take it to a normal photocopying machine, that is a shop, and say please copy these for me, because that person would immediately get alarmed saying this is confidential or classified information. Someone is trying to leak, and maybe even approach the government offices, and which is why Ellsberg had to be extremely careful. So he found out one photocopier who would do this job for him. He would go there in the night, he would very painstakingly hide those classified messages somehow, or he would put sheets on the glass of the photocopier machine, then take a photocopy and so on. So he continued this for about 12 months, 14 months to be precise, and for the next year plus, he was taking out each one paper, and he was actually copying each such paper, and then he was creating bound volumes. When he finished his work, in today's terms, apparently it cost him close to about $20,000 US. So he paid this money out of his pockets. Now, what did he do with these papers? These papers eventually got to be called as the Pentagon Papers, in case anyone of you has read about them. So these Pentagon Papers, which were huge bound volumes, were then sent to a US Senator. And this US Senator was in the opposition of the then President Lyndon Johnson. So he presented these papers in the US Congress, and this caused huge furor, because what the President and the government was telling the country was exactly opposite of what they were actually doing based on the paper evidence. There were extremely harmful references, extremely damaging orders that were given by the President, the army, everyone. It was revealed that the US position in Vietnam was completely contradictory to what they were preaching. And this meant that there was tremendous pressure on the government to do something. They had to act, they had to change their ways, they had to officially, unofficially announce that they would not participate in Vietnam anymore, and slowly that transition happened. The US obviously lost the war in Vietnam, but the fact remained that it was the Pentagon Papers which initially started this. And this is where I would first of all like to bring your attention to the fact that Ellsberg is a typical hacker mentality. The only difference being that in today's world, hackers have access to computers, networks, internet, extremely sophisticated machines, very, very high-end software, which Ellsberg did not have, because it did not actually require that software. All the information was in the paper form. But the mentality or the basic idea remains the same. And which is where the first point that I think we should remember is that hacking mentality is not necessarily bad mentality. Hacking mentality many times is caused by events that troubles an individual, that troubles a person who thinks, that troubles a person who is thinking differently than the rest, and which is where the person goes in an investigating mode and the outcome could be very different, which is what happened in the case of Ellsberg.